Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Can We Talk 420, where we live the changes we wish to see in the world.
Thanks, guys. Join us here each week where we try to entertain you, educate you, and teach you how to learn how to live a Canna lifestyle. And in doing so, we brought on Dr. David Allen with us, to have segments on the show to help us along with that.
With that education,
yes, with
that we've been doing for so long, it doesn't seem to be getting
drive it home, and listen, I'm so happy David agreed to do the show, do a segment on the show each week, because he is a guy that knows what he's talking about. It's a guy that doesn't just didn't wake up one day and just smoke weed and that was how he made up his mind.
No, well, I'm very glad that we were able to provide a platform for him to do so, because it's just so necessary. When I got into this industry, I got into the industry technically when I was very, very young, and
well, you could talk about that. You were actually that would be unincarcerable at this point.
Oh, I know that. I wasn't being vague for fear. That's for sure. No, I just didn't want to go into a long, drawn out thing. But I wish I knew then what I know now, and all of the teachings that I have learned. A lot has come from Dr. David Allen and following him.
What you have to remember is they didn't even know. They didn't even know about the ECDS.
No, not until the 90s. For sure. But what I wanted to focus today on the show is clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. Mm-hmm. When I say the acronym or when I say the verbiage, I get the same response. No. Oh. If I wanted it, I would have reached out.
Sorry, I didn't see you saying no.
I'm in the middle of speaking.
I know, you're an acronym.
Oh my God. Anyway. He's microdosing, and I think he may have taken a little too many shrooms.
Well,
today.
No, I didn't microdose today. I actually dosed today.
Oh, so that's what I'm tending with.
Yeah. So.
Anyway.
Happy me.
Anyway, most people don't believe that cannabis works in the manner that it does. So when you try to explain clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome to those, it's like, yeah, okay, whatever you say. Mm-hmm. The verbiage is very clear. When someone is saying to you, that knows where they're coming from and knows the science behind the plant and some human physiology, you kind of want to listen up. And the endocannabinoid system is the largest signaling regulatory system for every single cell you possess. That's all you're made of. So that in itself is huge. Mm-hmm. So talking about clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, endo meaning endogenous, inside the body, this is the cannabinoids that you produce. Well, you need, just like producing any other nutrients, you need to incorporate those nutrients to continue to reproduce them. So, we've become as deficient as we have by design. Mm-hmm. By design, I mean with it's so weird too that we found out in the 90s, the early 90s of the ECS, and it was then in the early 90s that all of our farms closed across the country. And Monsanto comes in, and Codex Alimentarius comes in. You got your food is polluted from every single direction you could possibly imagine. Your air is polluted, your water is polluted, and oh my God, there's no more cannabinoids really going into the air other than from other plants that may not have the content to replenish what you need.
Can I just say something really quick?
Sure.
That people, the problem I think people have is that even with endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, even the problem with
You wanna say
that,
that again?
yeah, I can't. My tongue ain't. But the problem I think that people have with it is that, well, it can't, come on, it can't be that fucking simple, you know. But just think of it this way: you can go when you could spend days and days and days and you can't start your car and you can't understand why, and all you had to do was change a terminal, and then it starts every time. Why can't it be just that simple? Why can't it be just replenish your body of the cannabinoids it's missing?
I think
and you might
that,
be a little bit more rational. You might be feel a little bit better.
I think that the progression slowly, that people are not cognizant of what's actually happened to them. I mean, but let's take a look. Let's take a look at a couple generations. Take a look at your old pictures, your old ancestral pictures, and see what their body types were then. Then, excuse me.
Right. No, I'm thinking right along with
Then
you.
Look at the generation we gave birth to.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the difference in the body types. There's a reason that you know, we have inflamed guts. There's a reason we have issues with procreation from polycystic ovarian syndrome and the obesity that we have in this country is everything's on the rise because of it.
Cancer, let's just
everything.
I mean, everybody has cancer. Every time you turn around, someone new you know is dying of this thing, and it's just because we've depleted ourselves so much of this. Now we're
in constant premature cell death mode. There is no apoptosis happening because we don't have the cannabinoids to neutralize those oxygen.
I drove to town today to do laundry. That was my day today. It was my in-town chores. Well, she did in-house chores. Yeah. So we normally do on Tuesday. And when I was going in, I was coming up over, and I got such a beautiful ride. I mean, you can ask Helen. You can't turn your head without it being a postcard. And so I'm thinking as I'm driving, I'm going, you know, there was a time where I took 131 prescription pills a day to feel good, or supposedly to try to feel good. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't get out of bed. I traded every bit of it, for all natural. Everything I do is all natural. Everything. It doesn't matter what it is. I do it that way.
Go back to when you were on that time on pills. Just think about how your mind worked then. But think about that. You know, think about how convoluted your thought process was on a constant basis, where you couldn't have even conversations like this because you couldn't get to the next thought.
Right. By the end of it, I couldn't.
No.
They had me so drugged up that when I went in the hospital, I fell asleep kissing her when she walked in. She walked in the room, I gave her a kiss and fell asleep in the middle of kissing her. She called that nurse in.
Look, that just goes
I'm so
to
glad
show.
I wasn't her.
Well, that look, he was on a laundry list of prescription meds. He landed in the hospital. Yeah. They implement all of those meds and then add. Yep. I mean, it's just, it was completely ridiculous and needed to be stopped. And I did stop it.
But what I was thinking was, just to get back, because I know me, I always cut and go off. Was I traded all of that for like oil and fungus. You know, that's my basic, you know, regimen every day. Yeah. That's got to be in my regimen every day.
But that's what keeps you having the quality that you have.
Yes.
And
I'm here.
And not for nothing, you're also going to have some longevity, which is what everybody's missing here. Like I just read two obituaries of people I went to school with. I'm 52 years old. Mm-hmm. Two people my age, I just read their obituaries, and this is every day. Well, this is happening. We're dying younger and younger and younger.
Well, even though I'm back now like this, like I can hold conversations and have creative thought and whatever else, my body, the damage it did to my body. Well, not only the damage it did to my body, but the misdiagnosis. Always a misdiagnosis. Always another medication. You know, always Lyme disease. underlying all of it. And if they would have treated it right from the beginning, I mean, but who the hell knew? I had it for freaking 15 years before they even diagnosed me, you know?
Well, I think that we're getting off subject. The subject is clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. That's the subject of today's show.
Right. I was just talking about holism and treatment, so I thought that was right on the same line.
Just a forewarning, I'm going to kick his ass before the show is over because he's just pissing me off.
I don't know. I think it was intelligent conversation.
Anyway, clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. That is what we are talking about. So, taking those things that I spoke about earlier into consideration, and understanding that we do possess an endocannabinoid system and it needs to be replenished. It needs to be taken care of. It's you do that by what you ingest, by what you do. And, you know, we've been taught to live a way that is so detrimental to good health. And we don't even see it. And I know that, you know, being on that one side and living that life for as many years as I did, and then crossing over to the other side of holism and finding myself and clearing the cobwebs from my mind and being able to explain this, it means everything to me.
Yes. You came out the other side.
Yeah, well, because I can go back, just like I asked you about all the pills you were taking. Think about how your thought process was then.
Right.
And now I can look at how my thought process is now, and I can see such a huge difference that I just want everybody to be that way.
Well,
and some people
what
might.
happened. They did this, like you're saying, over a long time. You know,
For
what I mean?
sure.
Like they slowly brainwashed our generation to when we had kids, when they were born, it was just a norm.
But
it wasn't like anything new they were learning.
But to all of those that are waking up, don't stop.
No.
Keep waking up.
Yeah.
Keep thinking about it. Remember what it was like when you were living life their way, and versus living life the natural way.
That's right.
You'll have a life. You'll have longevity. You'll have quality. You'll have a life, and not just an existence, because that's what that life gives you, just a simple existence and no real life at all. And what a shame that is. So I don't want to keep Doc waiting back there.
Yeah, plus you want to talk about,
you know, this is just a piece that I want to read to you because I want the words to resonate with you. From Leafly, it's just a tiny little excerpt. It's a little summary of this article. And the words are this: the ECS is present in every major bodily system, which is how its dysfunction can theoretically cause such a variety of conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And how cannabis manages to treat them.
Yep.
So just sit on that and just hear the words again in your mind. And we're going to bring Dr. David Allen in to speak about endocannabinoid deficiency and the toll that it's taking or has taken on our society and what we can do about it through education.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Hey, Doc, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Can you hear me well?
Hello. Welcome.
Yeah.
I can.
Thanks for having me.
Delay, it seems like he's always talking first because I did it on the playback. Okay.
Yes, thank you for being here. So we're talking today about the clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. And, you know, it's a very important subject for me because people just don't know. And I think that it's a key, that knowledge is key to getting from that false sense of existence from what we're taught to to what real homeostasis is. Our society is so far from homeostasis, they don't even have a clue of what the word means. And I just want to do everything that we can to change that.
Well, we're trying to educate the people, and it's a complex subject actually. So people are familiar with vitamin deficiencies causing trouble, and then there's essential amino. Your body doesn't make all the amino acids to make the proteins, and there's certain amino acids that you have to actually ingest that are essential. If you don't ingest them, then you also have medical troubles. And so the body is regulated by a bunch of enzyme systems. And what that means is there's like a Krebs cycle, or and it like breaks down glucose, and it takes a 6-carbon molecule of glucose and breaks it down sequentially, and one enzyme works on a product, and it makes us another product from the enzyme, and then another enzyme works on that product and changes it again, and every time the enzymes get involved, they either use or produce adenosine triphosphate. That's the energy molecule of the body. And so these enzyme systems, they're complex. There's a bunch of different enzymes, and if any one of the enzymes doesn't work, the whole chain of events slows down. So if you have an enzyme deficiency in one enzyme or multiple enzymes, then that's the bottleneck of the process that you're talking about. Um, so the endocannabinoids are chemicals that your body makes. They're endogenous and endocannabinoids, and they're chemicals, and they latch on to chemical antennas, the CB1 and CB2 receptors, the cannabinoid receptors. And people are familiar with insulin binding onto insulin receptors and causing glucose to go into the cell. People are familiar with that. Well, likewise, so for instance, only insulin only binds onto the insulin receptor. It's like a lock and key, and only cannabinoids, either the ones your body make, endocannabinoids, or exogenous cannabinoids like phytocannabinoids or plant cannabinoids, bind onto these antenna CB1 and CB2 receptors, and it causes physiologic change in the body. So there's a bunch of enzymes that make the receptors, and there's enzymes that transport the chemicals, the THC, and there's enzymes that break down your endogenous chemicals. So your body makes anandamide. That's the primary endocannabinoid, and so there's a bunch of enzymes that make this, and then if it stays around the body too long, it can cause trouble. So you have a separate set of enzymes that actually degrade it, so you don't have too much hanging around. And the balance of this is homeostasis, and by changing how much you have and how much you need, it balances everything out, so everything works fine. And if any one of these enzymes doesn't work, then you go out of balance. And so all enzyme systems, all things that you can measure physiologically, go up and down. If they go too high up, you die. If they go too low down, then you die. So if your respirations go too high, you die. If they go too low, you die. Glucose too high, pH too high or low, anything that you can measure, if it goes too high or low, you die. So life is in the mid ground between the highs and lows. That's what's called homeostasis. Mm-hmm. And cannabinoids, your endocannabinoid signaling system, and I call it a signaling system because that tells what it does. It's a communication system, a chemical communication system that your every cell has. And these little receptors, they're proteins. The CB1 receptor goes through the cell membrane 7 times. Part of it's on the inside of the membrane, and there has part of it sticking out. And the part that sticks outside of the membrane attaches to cannabinoids, whether your body makes them or whether you eat them, and it causes changes in the cell. And these cannabinoid receptors are so important. They're everywhere. They're on the cell membrane, they're on the mitochondrial membrane, and they're on the nuclear membrane. So these things are more prolific than all the other cell receptors that you have, and you have probably hundreds of different antenna to sense the environment outside. So you have receptors for neurotransmitters and all kinds of other things, and that's what regulates each cell. And so some people have enzyme defects, and these people that have enzyme defects, whatever process you're talking about, whatever enzyme that is involved in that enzyme cascade, the end product will be limited, so you have an enzyme deficiency, and that includes cannabinoids that you make. So, in my estimation, really, most all humans are endocannabinoid deprived. They make enough, but you can augment and bring your ECS up to proper function by using cannabis. Doesn't hurt.
Is that his connection?
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up a bit there, Doc. Yeah,
Now I can.
now I can.
Yes.
You broke up a little bit.
All right. Well, so cannabis is like a super vitamin, a metabolic.
Right.
Essential.
All humans
He's
should
breaking up
take cannabis as a vitamin that helps regulate, first of all, of your it regulates. So they have chemicals that can block. Give this chemical on the CB1, then it blocks your ECS. That doesn't occur unless you want blockers. Am I still on?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the connection.
Hold on 1 second, Doctor.
Through it.
Yeah, connection's a little rough. I was just asking Jim how it is for him in the studio.
He's saying.
Okay.
Yeah, he said it's pinging there too.
A lot of people have endocannabinoid deficiencies. I say many people have cannabinoid deficiencies, and if their ECS, it will have better health, and it regulates your immune system.
Absolutely.
And it has great potential for affecting COVID virus. Now, people don't understand, really, even the doctors are given misinformation about your immune system. And so I've heard several times on TV that the doctors say, oh, well, you should take this shot and it will boost your immune system. And that is actually true. But the problem is people don't die from a low immunity. They die from a hyperimmune reaction to the virus.
Right.
So what happens is the virus replicates in your cell, and then when too many viruses are in the cell bursts open and releases millions of viral particles. If you have a immune system, what happens is it causes and all these proteolytic enzymes in your blood. That
Hey, Doc, your audio's breaking up really bad. So I think what we need to do is we need to have you disconnect and try reconnecting again. Is that okay?
And then he'll let you back in.
And then he'll let you back into the studio. Let's try that.
Try that. Right. Excellent. Well, listen, that's a lot. Listen, basically, you know exactly what you were saying before. As you know, if we have, if we aren't CBD prolific, we're going to suffer, and that's why people are having so much trouble.
Well, another thing, you know, that I want to touch on with endocannabinoid deficiency is when people do start to change to a more holistic lifestyle and they go onto the cannabis dispensary line and they're brand new, they don't know what they're getting, and they go and they grab something and they go home and they use it and they go, oh my God, I don't like the way I feel. And that happens the majority of the time that anybody's dealing with whole plants.
Yeah, like high THC.
So I just want everybody to understand when someone comes to me with that and says, yeah, I did. I went and I got whether it be an edible, a concentrate that they're smoking or dabbing, whatever it is, and they don't like the euphoric feeling they're feeling, whether it throws them into a panic attack, whether it makes them nauseous because they're freaking out about it. That tells me that you're endocannabinoid deficient. That how you react to it, how your body is reacting to it is telling me that you're endocannabinoid deficient. And it will stop. It will go away once you bring your cannabinoid level up to par. When you are feeding your ECS, then that won't happen. So always, my suggestion and my advice is always start low till you know.
That's right.
It'll always be start low till you know. Wait 4 days ever before titrating up.
Right.
It's
your body needs to adjust.
Yes, your body does. It needs to adjust. You know, I had someone that I just recently started treating with CBD, not whole plant. For pain, CBD isolate too, but a higher milligram. He has a hip issue. So, but he had taken it for the first time, took a full dropper full, and said he started feeling some tingling sensation in his fingers. And that's just not going to happen from CBD. So it's definitely, you know, he took something foreign and he's now freaking himself out. Or it could be he was driving down the road because he was driving.
The inflammation's released from his arm.
Right. It could just been a pinched nerve, anything like that. But no, CBD isolate's not going to do that to you. But
with whole plant and THC, like you're saying, you can combat it very easily with CBD. I mean, you just take it, you know, CBD alongside it, and you can bring.
Well, that's a little trick that a lot of people don't know. If you are suffering from the euphoric feeling and you don't like the way you feel, then you can combat it with CBD. Take a little CBD underneath your tongue, and it balances you out.
Because CBD is like a transporter of THC, so it sweeps it away, makes you feel a little bit better.
So I think my goal in this whole segment is to educate you all on clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, because I believe that so many of us are deficient. and it's accelerating the aging process. It's promoting sickness, and without taking care of the endocannabinoid system and feeding it, that's just going to continue.
Well, I believe another thing we have to make people understand.
Sure.
In you just as
Dr.
much as CBD
Dr.
does.
David Allen mentioned the most prominent, which is anandamide, your own
THC.
personal THC being produced into your brain. And I think that, you know, if you look at the news, look at half the crap that goes on. You know, people are angry, people are depressed, people are not right in their minds. Come on, somebody just shot 2 people over snow removal and then shot himself in Pennsylvania. Brains are not working correctly, and because that bliss is blocked, and that has to do with lifestyle and how we're taught to live. And we need to get back in touch with Mother Nature as close as we possibly can, because that's where we belong. That's where we're supposed to be. That's where we're going to find ourselves the healthiest. And that's why it's so important for initiatives to go through, like the one that Doc wrote up, because we need our doctors to be able to delve deep into the plant and human physiology and figure out how to truly stop. We need to utilize Mother Nature to truly stop these diseases that are plaguing our society.
We just have to hope that all doctors go in with the same professional candor that David has.
Exactly, for sure.
Otherwise, you're talking about polluting it with, pharma people. But at least you have your people in the industry. You know how many doctors there are out there now that believe in the plant and understand that the plant is the answer and is the better way to treat and isn't as harsh and isn't addictive and all this crap that they've tried to brainwash for years and years, and why they've got it as a Schedule 1 still stuck in dinosaur.
Well, I mean, it's
dinosaur stages.
My conspiracy theorist mind, believes that that's how they want us. You know, they want us this way, and it's
David's back.
Just got to stop. Yes, Doc is back. Hey, Doc, can you hear us?
Hey, how's it going? Yep, I can.
Good.
There you go.
Good. Better connection. Way better.
I'm gonna go see my dog.
I'm sorry about that.
So, no. Please continue. Going over the importance of keeping your ECS up to par. Just to have quality and longevity of life, for sure.
Right. I think you're correct in that many people have endocannabinoid deficiencies. We didn't really know what to call it, and I predicted a long time ago that many diseases that we currently have names for, like Crohn's disease, for instance, will be renamed in the future once we find out the enzyme deficit that's associated with the endocannabinoid signaling system that causes that particular disease. So as the knowledge and science progresses, we will rename diseases to be associated with their deficits from this standpoint. And like I told you before, I discovered something really interesting when my brother came to visit me in Sacramento, and he had not used cannabis at all. So by definition, he's cannabinoid deficient. And by also definition, I'm cannabinoid endowed. And my girlfriend made some snickerdoodle cookies with cannabis in them. And my brother just picked a couple up and ate them. And then he was laying on the couch and saying, "Oh, I'm going to die. I'm so high." And we kind of just laughed at him. And, in a couple hours, he was fine and no problem. And I got to thinking to myself, "No, wait a minute. had I ingested those same amount of cookies, it would have almost no effect on me. And my brother, who's obviously deficient in this system, took them and had a massive reaction. So I said to myself, well, wait a minute, what does that mean? Does that mean he needs more or less cannabis? And I think the answer is it's a diagnosis of a hypofunctioning endocannabinoid signaling system. So he might need frequent dosing of smaller doses to augment, to get his system revved up to enough to where it will do his immune system some good. And so cannabis's benefit is it regulates your immunity by suppressing hyperimmune function. So sometimes your immune system goes crazy and tries to kill the virus that's inside you, and when it does so, it ends up eating yourself. It dissolves. In Ebola, the cytokine storm causes this release of proteolytic enzymes that eats the glue between the cells of your veins and arteries. And so you leak blood because the cells aren't glued together anymore. And so this proteolytic enzyme eats all proteins, including yourself. So sometimes a hyperimmune function is what you don't want. And so the question is, do these vaccines cause a hyperimmune function? There are some reports of people having disseminated intravascular coagulation, DIC. Oh, I lost you. Are you still there? Can you hear me? It's just me.
How you doing? As their producer, I wouldn't leave you just hanging solo on their show. I'm Jim Freedom. You remember me?
Hey, Jim, how you doing, bud? So what's going on?
Pretty good. I guess Helen and Peter are having some connection issues of their own there. I'm not sure what's going on. They're attempting to reconnect right now. So I have 4 minutes worth of video. It's two 2-minute videos that I think are pretty good on the subject. If you got, I think they're back here.
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
I think he just sees that black scrolling screen.
I know. I can hear you, Doc.
Okay, I
we
can
hear you.
Guys now.
Can you hear us?
Okay, good.
Good. Just tell him keep going. You're doing
just
great.
Keep going.
So what I'm saying is, sometimes a high reaction is not what you want. So you want a regulated immune reaction, and apparently cannabis does that to some extent. And there's a bunch of different places looking into this. So there's some place in Alabama, University of Nebraska. There's a place in Canada and in Israel that are currently studying, and probably a couple other places that are currently studying different cannabinoids and viral infections with COVID. So we don't know the extent of the help it gives, but we have some indication that it does help. So we're not there as far as the scientific knowledge, and I always predicted that even like the Ebola. So I did a story on how CBD might be used in a treatment of Ebola, and and the pot haters hated it, and the pot lovers loved it, and it was reprinted in a whole bunch of languages, and no one can disprove this unless they do a clinical study. And
Right.
so we don't know the extent, but I think that's in some they will do retrospective studies for Ebola and COVID to see these people died and they had so much cannabinoids in their blood, and these people survived and they had so many cannabinoids in their blood. And so retrospective studies will be able to prove uh, efficacy in the COVID infections.
Right.
Now, Doc, well, I want to ask you a question, and it kind of goes along with your initiative, because we were kind of talking about it a little bit while you were reconnecting. How fair or down the line do you believe doctors will be with cannabis if they're afforded the opportunity to study the plant freely?
Well, it's really a hard question to answer because it involves a lot of things. First off, you got the medical board and licensing issues.
Right.
And then doctors that write prescriptions, it's a federal license. So you get a DEA license to prescribe medicines, and it's a Schedule 2 through 5. Nobody gets a Schedule 1 license, which is for cannabis and heroin and some other things. So no doctor can give you a prescription for marijuana legally, even anywhere, even in California today. They can do recommendations, but they can't write a federal prescription.
A true prescription, right?
Right.
So, right. That I understand that. So
the doctors are
still correctively Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, doctors are inhibited by the medical board. For instance, in California, Kamala Harris was in charge of the licensing board, the medical board, and she sued me that said I didn't do a good faith exam, and there's no real definition for that, on a patient that already had 2 other doctors say that he was okay for using cannabis. I saw the patient, said, "Oh, you got these problems. I think cannabis will help you. You've not had any complications from cannabis before. I agree with your cannabis use." And so I just agreed with his cannabis use, and I made my signature, made it legal for him to go to the store and buy cannabis medicine. Well, his brother brought suit to the medical board and to me, and they claimed that I was a harm to society for recommending cannabis. Now there's a federal case. It's let me see. It's Conant. There it is.
It's horrible.
It's Conant versus Walters. It's a Ninth Circuit Court 2002 case, federal case, that says doctors cannot be punished by the medical board for giving a recommendation on a medical issue, including cannabis. But the medical board still took my license, and now you don't even need a license to get cannabis in California. You just have to have a driver's license.
I
So
know.
they
I
took
know.
my career.
And to go back and correct the mistakes, their mistakes would be just wrong, wouldn't it? I mean, come on, that is so. First of all, calling someone harmful for doing anything with cannabis, I don't care what you do with it, is ludicrous at best. And then secondly, if they've changed law and law now has been like, okay, as long as you can go to the DMV and prove who you are, you can go buy cannabis. Why haven't they gone back and corrected those wrongs? And that's why
there's so many wrongs. Well, even with Kamala Harris, I get really pissed off because she jumped on the cannabis bandwagon to get elected.
I know,
and didn't right any wrong.
That vomited in my mouth when I heard her during those VP debates, and cannabis came out of her mouth in a positive fashion. I said, "You are the biggest hypocritical pig looking for a vote, and that's all you're looking for." And I was so mad.
Well, it is.
Well, what I want to do is this.
They got to go back and correct that, Dave. Oops.
Oh, what happened?
Oops.
Where'd my docket go?
Oh, well, I think maybe he got a phone call or something.
Something kicked him right off.
Went off, but we'll have him back in a second. Now, my question to David would be: isn't there some kind of legal action he can take now?
I don't
to
see
go back and get it.
I don't see. I don't know. I mean, I think that if nothing else, even if we made a campaign where we just kept sending letters to her. Okay, now you're there. You're there in that office.
Exactly.
Look, now fix it.
Right. You want to do something.
Give him his license back.
Something to the community. Because listen, if anybody in this community, everybody in this community knows David.
Hey there.
And even if they don't know they've heard of David, they've heard of David.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like from a clip or just from it, words coming from other people. There you are, David. Glad you're back.
Hi, can you hear me?
To do that, to start a campaign for that.
Yes, we can. Okay. Go ahead. You can start where you left off.
Well,
I don't know what happened.
here's
You got
what I
kicked
want
off.
to make happen.
Okay.
I would like, if you allow a lawyer or a politician to write law on cannabis, they think inside a square box, and they can't think outside of that square box. And so anytime you have those people involved in cannabis legalization, it's going to turn out horrible. Okay? And so what people can do is they can do an end run around all the politicians and DEA and police. They can bypass all of that shit by writing. Now, this doesn't happen in all states, but in like 17 states, the citizens can write an initiative to change the state constitutional law, and they can write any crazy thing that they want in that constitutional law. And if they have enough people sign for it, then it goes for a vote. And if enough people vote for it, it bypasses the legislature. And so my initiative says that these laws in my initiative will be placed in the Constitution so that pot haters can't change the law afterwards without the vote of the people. So this takes it out of their hands completely. And so only one of these 17 states. I'm sorry?
To change the constitutional amendment, though, people have to understand how important it is for them to go out and vote, because you need 2/3 in order to overturn that, in order to make it amendable.
In Mississippi, it's 51%.
You got to get everybody to know.
He's responding to you.
Go ahead.
So can you hear me? In Mississippi, it's only 51%.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So we could change the state law, and actually, how about this? You could make an initiative for term limits. You could make an initiative that politicians cannot accept more than $100 from any single donor.
Yeah, I know. You could do a lot of.
So you could,
right.
Initiatives to bypass the legislature, and that's the key point, to get them uninvolved in the laws that govern them.
That's right. That's right. They have no business regulating something they completely obviously don't understand.
Well, that's why we want to put you in touch with a good friend of ours whose name is Timothy Locke. And Timothy actually wrote an amendment to Michigan's constitution to end prohibition.
'Yes.
He got squashed by, of course, your ever so other organizations that stomped on. Although he came very close to getting all the signatures he needed to get that initiative on the ballot, but he writes beautifully.
One trick that they're trying now, and it's happened in I think 2 states, is the initiative process. They rejected it because they say it's dealing with multiple problems, and the initiative process is for only one issue. And so when I wrote my so when I wrote my initiative, I had to alter it to say that the purpose of the initiative was as a single subject was to end the drug war as a single issue. So the single issue is ending the drug war, which has a multiplicity of issues involved in it.
Yes.
So you can't stop the drug war with 50 initiatives. This is one initiative to solve the whole drug war. And so I don't know that they're going to accept this. I don't know that they're going to accept this, but hopefully somebody in one state will pass an initiative that two things for our initiative was that doctors and scientists and veterinarians can study cannabis unrestricted and produce medical scientific reports on that. And the second thing is, if you have a plant limit or a quantity limit, that means you need an army of police and code violation inspectors. And so if you make it no plant limits and no quantity limits for adults, that means you don't need a police army.
That's right.
So, and that's the same. If it's really legal, it's going to be really legal, just like alcohol, guns, and ammunition. They don't have inspectors to inspect your house for how many bottles of alcohol you have. And that should be the same thing. Their issue should be taxation. And so if you put it through, and my initiative starts a clearinghouse for cannabis. So if you grow a bunch of cannabis, and you want to get rid of it, you can sell it to this clearinghouse. They test it and they give you a standard price for it.
Right.
And
quality grade price, just like a commodity.
It had to be lab tested, of course. And so there's no license requirement for up to 99 plants. If you have 100 plants or more, and that's federal standards. If you have 100 plants or more, then you have to have license. And my initiative also includes a social equity person to make sure that people that drug war, and I call them cannabis by.
Oh, you're breaking up.
POW.
Yeah, you're freezing up again, Doc. Oh, there he went. Well, we only have, I think, 5 minutes left to the show.
And I'll touch on POWs. We definitely are.
It's always wonderful to sit and listen to Dr. David Allen speak. He is so informative. He speaks at a pace that you can keep up. I love that about him. And
he's got a doctor demeanor still. Like that bedside manner.
For sure.
As he speaks. That's what I mean.
But, he speaks in layman's terms, period. I mean, you can understand what he's saying, and he's so easy to follow. So, and he has a plethora of videos out there on so many different things with cannabis and healthcare. And his studies. Look up his studies. Look at the things that this man has done, the teachings on this, the science of the plant and human physiology, and he just puts it all out there because he cares. This is so important. I can't stress it enough. he gives a shit, man.
The things that he teaches, and the thing that he's willing to teach, and the time he's willing to
give
is what they should be teaching in every single medical university across America.
You know,
not only 13%.
I love having him on my show, and at the same time, I'm disheartened because he should be way beyond my show. He should be out there on a platform where everybody is learning from him, and he's
David has been and is at times. David's been.
He'd be everywhere. Had his license not been taken away, and he have been afforded the opportunity to teach in the manner that he is meant to. Yeah. That's where I want to go.
But did you hear how bogus the charges were?
Oh God!
To begin with?
I do.
They really had him for anything. It's so
well.
stupid.
Hey, you know what, Miss Vice President?
Yeah, do something right.
Right, you're wrong.
Like, do something right.
Right, you're wrong, and give him his license back.
A boy on that one. I mean, I don't give
right, you're wrong.
Politicians, especially
and give him his license back.
Now, I agree with a lot of everything David said, and I agree when you go to market with something, you have to pay these things called taxes. But what I don't agree with is taxes.
Yeah, because taxation is theft.
That's right.
However,
thanks,
Dan Vernon.
Exactly.
But these are things that we have to change over time. But see, the change with cannabis has to come now, because I'm going to continue saying it till the day that I die. Mm-hmm. Anything less than the end of prohibition is genocide.
Mm-hmm. We just hope that it happens before we die.
I sure do. Because when I come back with the next life, I want to be completely cannabis endowed from day one and stay that way.
Yeah, well, we remain that way. And I think that that's what protects us. That's what keeps us healthy. We take vitamin D daily. She takes flaxseed for her cholesterol. But I mean, we have zinc and we have silver in the house. We have things that when we start to feel something's catching us, boom, we hit ourselves.
Well, we make sure that we give our immune system a boost. Our immune system is already strong because of the way that we do things, the way that we live and care for ourselves.
And if you just produce your own medicines, it's just so much easier.
It is. It is. And why should you be restricted on that? Right. I don't think anybody should be restricted on that. Everybody should be able to go in their backyard and pick from a plant to make themselves feel better and heal.
And I think that David should add to his initiative that doctors and scientists and veterinarians and all that should be studying the plant and writing papers. But it shouldn't exclude individuals from doing the same testing. We should be able to do, we've been doing it for how many years as it is. Why shouldn't we, if we don't have to report our data to anybody, or we could report our data as true data, because grassroots people aren't going to bullshit you at the end of the day. When somebody dies, we have a heart attack, like our heart goes out because we did everything we could to try to help, and listen, it's no different than a doctor, what I'm saying, but we don't ever call ourselves that. We don't ever say anything like that. Just say, listen, man, this is how I do it. This is how I live. This is how I've achieved health. And we know the power of the plant. We know what the plant can do. So, it's all about trust.
Well, the bottom line is we do know what the plant can do, but not everybody does. And what we are here to do is to teach and just continue drilling it home. Yeah. All of it's at your fingertips, just like it was at ours. And you just got to delve in and understand that it is important to healthcare. It is important to quality of life, and it is important to longevity of life. What more do you need to know? If you know that the ECS exists, and you know that it is the largest signaling regulatory system for every single cell that you possess as a human being, then what else do you need to know to delve deeper?
That's right.
What more motivation do you need to find out more?
And it's not hard to find.
Because I'm going to say this again also till the day that I die. When you have something wrong with you, when you're fighting something and you're looking around for help, you better be your own frontline warrior, fighting your fight, doing your due diligence, or don't ask for help.
That's right.
Make the right choices for yourself and for your health care.
That's right. It's not hard to do, guys. Well, listen, that's our show for this week.
It is. Thank you so much, Dr. David Allen, for joining us each week and giving us your wisdom. I pray for you every day. I absolutely love you and adore you.
Thank you, our producer.
Thank you to Jim Freedom
for
everything you do for us.
Ins and outs of audio.
And thank you to the network that we're streaming through, which is Trovo and
that's
FSM.
Yep. No. Free
Speech Media.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger Sanchez.
See y'all next week. Until then, be the best you that you can be, simply by living the changes you wish to see.
That's right. Next week we'll see you here again. We'll continue to educate you. And I want to add just one quick thing. Repetition. She said repetition. You know, you might hear things of repetition, but that's just so you understand. It's really. I mean, you hear repetition every day on the TV to drill at home. Learn something. Watch these podcasts sober. Watch other ones. But learn about the plant. That's what it's about. It's all about learning about the plant. All right, guys. Till next week. We'll see you Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern.
See you next Tuesday.
I guess. Yeah. Fuck you back. All right, guys. We'll see you next.